What's up, guys? It's Belty, and we are officially 200 days out for my bodybuilding show in September, and so the prep is moving along according to plan. So I finished my bulk in early February and maintained my weight just to maintain performance and to keep the muscle that I've built. And now it's time to start cutting. So the calories are gonna start going down, the cardio is gonna start going up, and it is time to start locking in, even though we're still pretty far out. The last time I took my in-body scan, which measures body fat and muscle mass and some other cool stats through bioelectrical impedance, I take the results with somewhat of a grain of salt. It said that my body fat percentage was in the low 20s. I'd like that to be in the mid-teens by, say, April or May. But today, as the title of the video says, I'm gonna break down my entire training split and the split that I'll foreseeably do up until the show. So obviously the goal between now and the show day is to hold on to as much muscle as I can. So making sure that my training structure and my frequency for all my muscles is right is very important. As of right now, I follow a hybrid split that is a mixture of push-pull legs and upper-lower. And so day 1 of the split is my pull day, day 2 is push, day 3 is legs, and then I have an optional rest day there, and then day 4 is upper, and day 5 is lower, and I have another rest day after that. That's just to help increase frequency for training while also managing recovery at the same time. So a lot of people talk about what's the best training split ever created to mankind. But for most casual lifting, where you don't have a specific goal in mind, you're just trying to stay fit and look good, your split mostly comes down to enjoyment, consistency, and then time management. So if you like it, you can stick to it, and it's relatively time efficient. I'd say that's a win as far as a training split. And as long as you can stick to it and just progress on each of your exercises in that split for however many months, you're gonna see progress. But when it comes to competitive bodybuilding, that's a bit different. The perfect split comes down to 3 different things, which would be what are your weak points, what's your ability to recover, and the category of bodybuilding that you're competing in. So since I'm competing in Classic Physique, I'm going after building the X frame, which is a combo of a V-taper and then a nice quad sweep. So for me in particular, that means adding some extra width to my lats, some width to my shoulders, and some size to my quads. And this is all while keeping a nice tight waist. So as long as I can keep my conditioning and my shape, then I should have a good chance at doing some damage at the Sasquatch Pro-Am. So this split allows me to hit my side delts and lats at a nice quality frequency, getting enough quad volume while still being able to recover, and definitely stay away from ego lifting, which most of my exercises just don't lend themselves well to ego lifting, and the way that I do them definitely doesn't. So going off of what I've logged in my liftoff app, for my pull day, I start off with calf raises. I don't like putting those on my lower body days, just because if I do them at the end of my session, then it's probably not going to be very quality calf work. And if I do it at the beginning, there's a chance it could limit my other moves later. So I start off with those, and then I go into cable lat pull downs, and those right now I do for 4 sets. I started at week 1 of my training mesocycle doing 3 sets and then worked my way up to 4. I do those in a giant set with cable upright rows and cable curls. For the pull downs, I like to stay between 10 and 12 reps, the upright rows about 8 to 10, and then cable curls around 12. On the last set of these, I like to go to technical failure, where I cannot finish the concentric part of the rep, and that's where I know to end the set. The nice thing about this giant set is that I can switch between all these exercises without there being overlapping fatigue between each one. The cable lat pullovers are very lat isolated, and the upright rows don't really eat into my bicep work, so it's kind of the perfect giant set, in my opinion. Next, I move on to machine plate loaded rows. This is to target my mid back and supersetted with preacher curls. on a plate-loaded machine as well. For the preacher curls, I like to stay in the 12 rep range, last set going to failure, and same thing with the rows, right around 10 to 12, last set to failure. And then last exercise is some single arm lat pull downs. I set this up with a bench on a freestanding cable situation. For each of these pulling exercises, I use Versa grips to make sure that my grip isn't the limiting factor of my lift, because otherwise I could be leaving gains on the table if my grip gives out on me first. And that's the end of pull day. Now on to push day. Start out with a superset on the cables where I do one side doing tricep push downs in a funky way with a bench. That's nice for me because it gives me extra stabilization while I'm doing my push downs. And for those, I like to stay around 10 reps. And then I'll superset those with cable crunches, and I'll shoot for about 7 to 9 reps for the cable crunches. For each of those exercises, I do 3 sets, actually 4 sets for the push downs, 3 sets for the cable crunches. Next, I move the bench towards the middle of the cable situation and drop the cables all the way down, and then I do my low to high cable flies. These I will do in the about 10 rep range, and I started out the mesocycle doing 3 sets, and then I worked my way up to 4, and I just made this swap not too long ago. I was doing incline dumbbell press, but I switched it out for traditional bench press, and I like to superset those with some dumbbell lateral raises. And for bench, I'm doing 3 sets. For the lateral raises, I'm up to 4 sets. And then last is some lying tricep extensions, which I either do 3 or 4 sets depending on how my performance is. So that's the end of push day. Now on to legs. I start out legs with a bit of warming up, some leg swings, front to back and then side to side. And then I move into lying leg curls, which I do for about 10 reps and I do for 4 sets. Then I move over to hip adduction. My glutes, I'm not gonna lie, are rather massive, so I don't really do much isolated glute work, so I don't superset the adduction with the abduction, and so I just do the adduction, working on the inner part of my thigh. I do 3 sets for those for about 15 to 20 reps. Next, I hop over to the leg extension where I attach my hustler pad to get some extra range of motion on our stock leg extension machine. For those, I go for about 15 to 20 reps, and what I'll do is I'll mile rep match my way up to 15 or so reps for each set. And for those unfamiliar with myo reps, it's basically where you have a rep goal and you take as many rest pauses in between in your set until you reach that rep goal. At least that's my definition for it. Usually I can get the 15 on the first set, and then from there on it takes some myo reps for sure. And those I do for 4 sets, and then I hop onto our Arsenal leg press where I do 3 sets of about 12. Last set I usually get a spotter and take it past failure, get some forced reps at the very end, and get around about 12 or 13. Now we're on to the upper day, which this day I also start off with calf raises for the same reason as before, and then I superset pull-ups with dips, starting off with weighted for both, and then moving into just body weight, and then for my last set doing as many body weight reps as I can, and then adding some assistance with the assisted pull-up and dip machine. Usually I'll stick between 5 or 6 reps for each set, with the exception of the last set where I'll usually get 10 reps total with the partials and everything that I do with the assisted function. Then I superset preacher curls with overhead tricep extensions on our free weight preacher curl station. And for those, I usually stick between 10 and 12 reps for the curls and about 6 to 8 reps for the extensions, with the caveat that the last set I'll do some forced reps where I'll use some momentum to get the weight all the way up and then control the eccentric on the way down. And those I either do 3 or 4 sets, really just depending on how much time I have for the gym. Then after that, I'll head over to our lateral raise machine and do 3 sets for 3 sets of 10. And that last set is usually has some myo reps in it. And then the last exercise I do on this day is a crunch machine where I do 3 sets of about 10 to 12. Same thing, I'll myo rep match up to about 10 or 12 for my last set. And the last day, it's my lower day, and I'll start that one off with some machine lateral raises, and I'll do 4 sets of those. Same thing, I'll myo rep match the last set up to 10 or 12 or so. And then I'll head over to our seated leg curl machine, and emphasizing a nice lean forward on the seat, I will do 4 sets of about 10 to 12 on those. Same thing with the last set being myo rep matched. And then I recently added some adduction onto this day as well. So I will do some hip adduction after that. Same thing, 3 sets of about 15 to 20 reps. And then depending on what's open, I'll either do sissy squats next. I like doing them on the Smith machine with some weight. And I'll usually do about 4 sets of about 12 reps. And then last exercise, or could be second to last exercise, is the deficit deadlifts, where I'll put 2 45 plates under my feet and do specifically a stiff-legged deadlift. And so with those, I definitely use straps as well, because those are absolutely brutal to do with no straps. And for those, I do about 3 sets of 10. I try to get an extra rep after doing a rest pause on my last set, but that's usually what it ends up being, just 1 extra rep, no more, no less. So then now that I'm not bulking and able to hit PRs every time I just step foot into the gym, my goals are precision, execution, maintaining intensity, and leaving ego at the door. If I can hit some PRs in the process, great. But as long as I can maintain my performance, I'll be happy. So I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've kind of been slacking on the 100x challenge stuff. I think honestly, it might be over by now, but I'm still gonna go ahead and read through the entire book and glean its message of wisdom that is inside it and is derived from the Bible. One thing that I can impart that I've picked up from what I've read so far, though, is that just as there is a physical gym, there is also a spiritual gym. And you can think of your spirit as a muscle. When you're put through trials and tribulations, or just, a difficult circumstance throughout your day, or something that's lingering, that's been in your life for a long time, your spiritual muscle gets worked when you abide in Christ and you choose to do His will as opposed to your own. Whether that be doing the right thing, whether that be admitting a wrong, whether that be repenting of sin, or whether that be giving forgiveness to others. Consistently choosing God's way over your own is how you build that spiritual discipline and work towards sanctifying yourself with God. So that when you're at heaven's gates and God's looking at you, He can say,
"I knew you.
Well done, good and faithful servant."
As opposed to,
"I never knew you.
You're going to hell."
I can't say it's going to be exactly like that, but I know that abiding relationship that is congruent with your life is how you build that spiritual discipline. So, like I said in the first video, if you're following this prep, I would love for you to be part of it. So let me know, are you team push-pull legs, upper lower, or are you a hybrid guy? Or are you something completely different? Are you a full body crazy man? And if you've competed before in bodybuilding, let me know what category and how it went. So we're 200 days out. The cut has begun. We're building the X frame and we're doing it with a purpose. So it's time to get to work.